Hello, everyone, and welcome to Animals Healing. I'm your host, Lale. So glad you're here. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and activate that little bell so you never miss an episode, and sharing is always appreciated. Okay, so we have all felt it, right? That almost magical connection we have with our pets? But is that bond really a two-way street when it comes to stress? In this explainer, we're digging into the science of cross-species attachment to find out how our own emotional state truly affects our wonderful animal companions.
I mean, think about it. You've had a really tough day, right? You walk in the door, you just slump onto the couch. And what happens? Within seconds, your dog has their head on your lap or your cat is right there purring up a storm. It totally feels like they have some kind of sixth sense for our emotions, doesn't it? It's such a powerful, comforting feeling, and you are so not alone if you've experienced this.
And it's not just a feeling, it's practically universal. Get this, a global study found that a staggering 95% of us consider our pets to be family. Wow. So, this isn't just some casual affection we're talking about. This is a deep, fundamental bond. But how does that bond actually work on, a physiological level? Let's find out.
Okay, first up, our amazing stress buffers. Let's start with what science has known for a while. For decades, researchers have been documenting how our pets are these amazing, powerful buffers against our own stress.
So, the formal name for this is the human-animal bond, or HAB for short. The key part of the definition is that it's supposed to be mutually beneficial, good for both of us. But here's the interesting thing. For a really long time, the research has been kind of a one-way street, focusing almost entirely on how they benefit us.
And here's a perfect example of that. Back in 2012, a study looked at kids who were about to take a stressful test. Researchers measured their cortisol. That's the main stress hormone. And the results? They were absolutely crystal clear. The kids who had a dog with them had way lower cortisol levels. Get this, even lower than the kids who had a friendly person there for support. I mean, that's incredible. Our pets are basically powerful medicine.
All right, next section, a scientific measurement mystery. So we know they help us, that's a given. But that brings us to the real core question we're tackling today, and it's actually a bit of a scientific mystery. Does it work the other way around? Do we buffer their stress in the same way? Well, the answer, it's not as simple as you might think.
So yeah, our pets buffer our stress, but do we buffer theirs? This is the exact question that has really puzzled researchers for a while. Because of course, we want to believe it's true, right? We want to believe that our calming presence can soothe our pets just as much as they soothe us. We're all hoping for this perfect, moment-to-moment emotional mirror. But when scientists actually try to prove it, they hit a major roadblock.
And this is the roadblock. To measure stress right in the moment, like acute stress, the easiest way to do it is with a saliva test. Makes sense. But here's the problem. A really critical study found that in dogs, the results from saliva tests just don't match up with the more accurate blood tests. The correlation was only 0.09. That's basically nothing. So the main tool scientists needed to prove that real-time stress mirror idea, it turned out to be totally unreliable. A huge dead end.
So that leads us to the real dynamic. It's us. This whole measurement problem forced scientists to get creative. They had to look at the relationship in a totally different way. So instead of looking for that second-by-second mirror, they started looking at long-term patterns using cortisol from hair samples. And what they found? Oh, it changes everything. The influence is definitely real, but it's mostly a one-way street, flowing from us to them.
Okay, this is the really crucial point. The myth is that it's a perfect mirror, our stress and their stress just reflecting back and forth. But the reality? It's much more like an echo. Think about that. Your pet isn't just reacting to you being stressed for 5 minutes because your pizza is late. No, they are absorbing and reflecting your deeper, long-term emotional state, your personality, your baseline anxiety, basically your whole vibe and way of being in the world. And a landmark study by Sundman and their team totally confirmed this. They found, and I'm quoting here, that a dog's stress levels mirrored the owner's because the dog's cortisol levels were more strongly related to the owner's personality traits. So it wasn't about a passing bad mood, it was about the owner's stable personality, things that don't change day to day. It's really not about how we feel in the moment, it's about who we are. And this influence shows up in some really specific ways. For instance, owners who score higher on personality traits like neuroticism often have dogs that are just not as good at coping with stress themselves. Even our touch matters.
You know that frantic, agitated petting you might do when you're stressed? That can actually raise a dog's cortisol. And if an owner has a higher baseline level of stress, their dog tends to be more alert and vigilant all the time. Our nervous system is, in a very real way, tuning theirs.
Okay, so our final section is our self-care is pet care. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Hearing all this might feel, well, like a really heavy burden. Like, great, another thing to feel guilty about. But I really want us to reframe this. This is not about blame. It's about a beautiful and profound responsibility. It means that one of the greatest gifts we can ever give our pets is the gift of our own well-being.
Exactly. The big takeaway here isn't a burden, it's a beautiful responsibility. This science doesn't point to some flaw in our relationship with our pets. Actually, it points to just how deep it is. Our lives are so intertwined that our own inner state literally becomes part of their environment. And knowing that empowers us to care for them in a whole new, deeper way, by starting with ourselves.
So what can we actually do with this information? Well, it's pretty simple. First, mind your mood. Seriously, just taking a few deep breaths before you greet your pet when you get home can make a huge difference. Your calm becomes their calm. Second, practice gentle touch. When you feel stressed, think about giving long, slow, soothing strokes instead of that kind of frantic, activating patting. And third, value quality, not intensity. The goal is a healthy bond that adds to your life, not an overly intense one that's trying to replace other connections, because that can actually be a stressor too.
So the takeaway is simple. Our self-care is pet care. They give us this incredible gift of stress relief, and the best way to repay them is by managing our own. The final question then is, how will you care for yourself this week, for both your sakes? Thank you for joining us. To continue exploring ways to heal and grow, subscribe to Crystal Color Enjoy Life. And for this channel, please like, subscribe, activate the bell, share, and leave a comment with your thoughts. We'll see you in the next episode.